and legacy of Nancy Wilson. Want to also do something. You heard this last time my guest was here. Just want to reiterate. We're going to now start calling this segment Meet the Black Press because the Black Press joins us every 2 weeks, and we're even doing some new imaging. So first of the new year, you're going to hear a new theme for this segment, Meet the Black Press, and see some new video imaging as well. You can join us now on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make it plain. Also on Instagram at Minister with 2 T's. But yeah, we're gonna do a big rollout first of the year for Meet the Black Press. I think it's high time we had a segment like this, and we've got some big surprises in store. And the person who's inspired this segment ongoing is our very special guest, the president of the Black Press of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the Reverend Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr., my dear friend and brother. Ben, good morning, man. How are you?
Good morning, Brother Mark. This is the day that the Lord has made. I'm just getting back from North Carolina where we're at the homecoming ceremony for Queen Mother, freedom fighting leader, Rosanelle Eaton.
Yes.
Down in Youngsville, North Carolina. Reverend Barbara and I spoke at the funeral yesterday, so I'm back now in D.C. and glad to meet the Black Press. You're right, man. We're going strong. Meet the Black Press.
That's right. Going into the new year. Ben, why don't you introduce our other very special guest that we have on the line with us this morning?
Absolutely. We have the distinguished publisher, freedom fighting sister in her own right, from the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, Jean-Michel Kearney, who's the publisher of the Cincinnati Herald.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning. It's such an honor to be on your show, Mark, and thank you, Dr. Chavis.
It's a pleasure to have you. So tell us a little about the Cincinnati Herald, Sister Kearney.
Well, the Cincinnati Herald was founded in 1955 by Gerald Porter, and Mr. Porter, unfortunately, was in a car accident in the 1960s, was taken to a hospital. They refused to treat him. By the time he got to another hospital, he had passed. His widow, Marjorie Parham, took over the paper with her son, Bill Spillers. Mrs. Parham turned 100 this year in February. She'll be 101 in 2 months. And she is as feisty as ever, doing great, still giving us advice, and she's living independently. So the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955. It is Cincinnati's only Black-owned newspaper, very popular here, lots of community support, and we're here for the community.
So what are some of the issues and stories that are of great interest to your community in Cincinnati that the Cincinnati Herald is covering?
Right. Well, there's a lot going on in Cincinnati. You know, Cincinnati is the home of the collaborative agreement. You remember back in 2001, after the police shooting of Timothy Thomas, the city just exploded. And so groups came together, the Black United Front and the ACLU and others, and formed a collaborative agreement that no longer is court-ordered, but is still voluntary. And so that we recently had a refresh of that to see how we're doing with police-community relations. And so groups have been meeting and talking about how things are going, and just to continue working on improvements in terms of racial profiling, use of force. So that's still very present. Economically, the African American Chamber here is very active, helping to support small businesses. So we're very proud of the work they're doing. They just started, this is first in the country for African American chambers, the Real Estate Investment Fund, so that we can build more wealth in the community by pooling our funds and investing in commercial real estate. So we're really excited about that. On a negative note, we don't have enough leadership here. I mean, we have a lot of nonprofits who are working to help Black folks eradicate poverty, et cetera, but many of them are headed by white individuals. And, one cry in the community is if it's for us, it needs to be by us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have more leadership positions here. We just lost the head of the United Way in Cincinnati, Michael Johnson, who was only here for 3 months and then let go by the board. And he was very popular in the community. For the 3 months he was here, he got to know everybody. And when there was a police shooting down on Fountain Square at Fifth Third Bank, he showed up. I mean, not a police shooting. I'm sorry, there was a shooting, not by the police, but by another an active shooter situation, but he showed up, for the community to help out. I mean, he was really wonderful. He was a great leader. And so his loss was a huge loss for our city. And then we started looking around to say, well, who's in charge around here? There aren't enough black people, at the table. So we need a seat at the table. We need to be on these corporate boards. We need to be, on these nonprofits as well as for-profits. We need to have a say in policy that's being made for our community.
Yeah,
So that's huge. Also, let me just talk about health.
Please.
The Center for Closing the Health Gap has a new initiative for Black women. It's called Black Girls Rise. Black Girls Rise for Health. And the problem is that Black women are the highest, have the highest rate of death from things like HIV and AIDS, diabetes, heart disease. I mean, and it's increasing for Black women. It's not getting better. And so they're starting a health initiative for that. They've also been fighting to stop all these food deserts. We have so many Black communities that don't have access to healthy food. There are no grocery stores nearby, and so people go to the corner convenience store. They buy a lot of processed food, or they go to fast food places where you're really just eating a lot of salt. I mean, fast food is okay sometimes, but not as a regular diet. So there are things we could do to, for our health, and we have to be proactive about that. So those are some of the issues going on here in Cincinnati. We're also excited about the upcoming convention. I know Dr. Chavis wants to talk about that, the National Newspaper Publishers.
That's right. Tell it if you would. I'm glad you reminded me. Tell us about that if you would, Ben.
Yes, on June 25th and 29th, all of our publishers from around the United States, we have 220 African-American-owned newspapers, and a lot of them will be in Cleveland, in Cincinnati, along with other people. Our national 2019 convention of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the NNPA, will be in Cincinnati, June 25th to the 29th. And we're looking to have a great convention, and the Cincinnati Herald will be our host publisher. They'll be helping us to host the convention.
Very.
We're so excited about that.
Yeah, no, and
the power of the black press is powerful. And can you imagine over 220 Black newspapers across the country? I mean, what a force!
Yeah, no question about it. And folks, we all ought to continue to support the Black press, and wherever we are, so that we can hear our stories, and our stories can be a priority right within our own community. I want to ask you both something, in light of what's going on with the Trump administration, and every day there's more and more breaking news about crime being committed. I frankly don't think he's very long for the Oval Office. But how does that impact our community, civil rights, things that our community needs? I mean, it seems to me if you're already predisposed to ignoring our community, you're going to ignore it even more when you're under criminal investigation. You don't even have time to think about it, do you, Ben?
Well, that's true. And, of course, the context is voter suppression versus massive Black voter turnout. On blackpressusa.com, there's a lead story where the NAACP just did an analysis. And of all the groups that turned out for the midterm election, 90% of African Americans voted Democratic. And that's why you're going to have the Congress now switching from Republican to, at least on the House side, from Republican to Democrat. So 2019 is going to be some new realities where we can counterbalance some of the retreat on voting rights, the retreat on health care that Jan mentioned, and also the overall increasing the quality of life of our communities in which we serve. So we move into 2019 much more optimistic, even with Trump's all the contradictions that he's facing as president, now with Cohen, Flynn, Manafort, and all of the things that are going on, revealing the corruption that happened in the 2016 election. But I think that voting rights in Ohio, voting rights in North Carolina, voting rights all over the country is still a major issue for Black Americans.
Uh,
Absolutely, I totally
please.
agree. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no, no.
I was
Go ahead.
just
I
gonna.
was gonna throw it to
Yeah.
you, please.
Okay, well, let me just say in Ohio, voter suppression is a huge problem, as Dr. Chavis said, as it is all over the country. We had a lot of folks purged from the voting polls, and
Right.
so when they got to, when they arrived at their polling place, they were told, oh, you have to take a provisional ballot. And so, people want their vote counted. They want it counted the day of the election. They don't want to be provisional where it's, 10 days later, whatever. They want it counted then. And they have to have faith in the voting process. And so when people start getting purged from the polls, from the voting rolls, that's really dangerous. And then I was just going to say, we see what happened to Stacey Abrams in Georgia, where the person she's running against is also in charge of how the votes are being counted. So a lot of folks who voted for her had their votes thrown out. And that's crazy. I mean, it's obvious that system is broken. Voter suppression is alive and well, and we really have to fight against that. That's ridiculous. Our votes need to count.
Yeah, no question about it. Also, the one black cabinet member, Ben Carson, um, is leading this thing called Opportunity Zones Initiative, which the executive order says is supposed to be for communities that need economic development. But now it's being revealed that all of these opportunity zones actually don't need economic development. They're already being gentrified and developed, including Long Island City and Queens, where Amazon is headed, and Long Beach, New York, beachfront property, where the Kushners own most of the property. So Ben Carson, Ben Chavis, is overseeing opportunity zones that really are a way for Trump's friends and in-laws to get tax breaks and kickbacks under the pretense that this is supposed to help economically disadvantaged communities. That's not happening at all.
Well,
It's not.
well,
It just breaks my heart when you. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Chavis. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say all bins are not the same.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so
I was going to say,
this,
you know what?
in this case,
Yeah.
Brother Ben Carson needs our prayers, our therapeutic prayers.
Yeah.
Yes. Mark, it just breaks my heart to hear about Dr. Carson. I grew up reading Gifted Hands and just thinking he was so fantastic. And, his current work has been really disappointing. I mean, he could be a great leader. And I think, to be, I don't know, hoodwinked by the Trump administration is just very hurtful for all of us.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's scary.
On behalf of the black press, I'm trying to meet with Ben Carson because, I'm also an ordained minister. I believe in redemption. And
Right.
I think that our brother needs counsel with the black press. I would like to bring him on and meet the black press, Mark,
Oh Lord.
so he can explain. Because I think he is, as Dan has said, he was a brilliant guy in the medical field. But I don't
Right.
think he's fully adjusted to use the blessings that God has given him in his medical talent don't necessarily translate now in terms of public policy. I know he's over the Housing and Urban Development Department, and he's leading this new initiative, Mark, that you just referred to. But when it comes to African American community, they're missing in action, and that's something we need to go have counsel with our brother.
Well,
Right, and let me throw in something about opportunity zones too, because there's a lot of talk about that here, and there are communities here being gentrified. One issue we really need to look at is who is getting all these contracts. I know in Cincinnati, when we looked at who's getting city contracts, it's something like 4%, and the black population in Cincinnati is like almost half. It's like 44, 45%. So why are only 4% of the contracts going to black contractors? There are a lot of black companies and folks who need jobs. So we have to make sure that when this work is being done, that black companies are getting a share, and that's not happening.
no, that's right, and that has to take place, folks. We want to invite you to check out one of our new favorite publications, the Cincinnati Herald.com. been operating for years and doing a great work, and we appreciate the work that Sister Kearney is doing there.
Thank you so much.
And so did I leave out the Dayton paper too? Is it the Dayton Defender?
Yes, we have
Okay.
the Cincinnati Herald, the Northern Kentucky Herald, and the
Okay.
Dayton Defender.
And the Dayton Defender. So folks, they're all there. And the Northern, so there's this, the Northern Kentucky is practically, you that overlaps, right? That all kind of.
It overlaps because Northern Kentucky is part of the greater Cincinnati area.
Gotcha. Okay. And of course, we also invite you all to go to blackpressusa.com. We are rebranding this segment in the new year. You're going to hear more about Meet the Black Press, y'all. So
Thank
be
you
sure
so
to
much.
stay right here in the convention coming up in Cincinnati. We're looking forward to that as well.
It's going to be live.
Yeah, I know it is. Happy holidays to you, Dr. Kearney.
She was a great freedom fighter.
She was.
Nancy Wilson, quietly, almost nobody knew. She also gave enormous amount of her resources to help fund the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King's organization. She contributed to the NAACP. So not only being a stellar a performer, she was Rosanelle Eaton, North Carolina. And, of course, when we come to Cincinnati, we want to salute 101-year-old Miss Parham, who is the former publisher of the Cincinnati Herald.
Yeah, well, we will.
Thank you.
We look forward to that. Ben, thank you for those words, too, man. I appreciate you, okay?
God bless you.
All right. God bless you both. Take care
Mark,
now.
Thank you for everything you do. You are wonderful. We really appreciate you.
All right. If it's Friday, y'all, it's Meet the Black Press on MIP. Thank you, folks. All right?
Thank you.
All right. Take care.